so pleased to have Jen Grace, who is my publisher with Purpose-Driven Publishing up in Connecticut, who's been working with me for the past couple of years to get this bestseller book published and on the shelves, and it's really been a barnstorm. I am so grateful to have worked with somebody like Jen, although we've worked together for the past, 2 years or whatever I mentioned, to get this thing actually achieved. This is just the beginning of so many things, guys. It's the beginning of a public speaking career for me, to get on stage, to talk about the message of purposeful living, to talk about empowering others and what they really need to do to master themselves in order to create great lives of success. In the book, as you know, I humbly share with you some of the things that I had to overcome in life in order to become the person that I am today. I don't want for the journey to success to be as hard for others as it was for me. And I share those rules with the 52 rules of creating a life of wealth and happiness now with the rest of the world, because I don't want to be here alone, guys. That's the whole point of the book. And that's the reason why at one point I said, well, should I self-publish and, just get a good book out there, or should I seek a powerful, wonderful publisher who can help to make this book, the testimonial of my life, so that, when I'm, dead and buried and in the cemetery, I will have said, over these 90 years or however long I lived, I lived a life of true authenticity. And the book itself was a masterpiece that was a reflection of my authentic message and purposeful, powerful self that I got to share with the rest of the world. It's something that I'm extremely proud of. And I could not have done it without Jen Grace of Purpose-Driven Publishing. So we're going to talk today about the process. Jen's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to ask her some questions because I want there to be other published people out there in this whole new world for me of authorship that we're going to share some best practices and secrets with you guys about today. So if that sounds good, stay tuned, and you're going to have a really, really wonderful ride on this kind of Q&A session of back and forth between my publisher and myself. Jen, welcome.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be having this conversation. And I know that we have viewers. I'm trying to, because I can't see the comments on my desktop, that I'm trying to watch them on the laptop. So if anyone has questions, we encourage you to actually comment on the post where it says that we're live now. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to see that. So at any rate, you just started talking about like the process, right? That this was in a way your manifesto. It's your giving back all of what you've learned as a successful business person. I want to know personally a little bit of the mindset, because you talk a lot about that in your book. I want to know your mindset for actually sitting and getting this done, because I know that it's not an easy task, and that's why not everyone's a published author. But, start there. I'm sure people are interested.
So I'll first say that the easy part was writing the book, and thank goodness I didn't know what I didn't know. It took a ton of time, and it took a lot of discipline. I'll give you an example. Back in the month of January, I was working very closely with my developmental editor. And not only did I have my day job, just to be CEO of Excel Global Partners and our other businesses, but I worked 237 hours with my editor back and forth, grinding this thing out to come up with a really good work product, because I knew that it was something that was going to have my name on it for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. In order for me to manage that schedule, Jen, I did the same thing 7 days a week. I woke up at the same time every single day. I exercised every morning for at least 20 minutes doing yoga, weightlifting, free body weightlifting exercises where I went running. And then I'd have my cup of coffee and I'd go straight into the library and I'd start working on the book. And the reason why I did that is because the creative forces and the willpower in my mind were highest at that time of day. I'm a morning person, and I always encourage other people to knock out the hardest things during the day, during the morning. And that's something that's really, really served me well. And I talk about that in the book, how just chopping away at something really, really big on a daily basis and chipping away at that sculpture on a daily basis is going to eventually create something really wonderful. It was not a fast journey. It was a long, drawn out, somewhat challenging journey. And at times I kind of wondered, what have I gotten myself into? But the good news is I kept chipping away at it, and we created a book that's a bestseller, and something that I'm quite frankly incredibly proud of. When I look at the cover, I'm proud of it. When I look at the page layout, the font, the testimonials, when I look at the fan mail that we get on a daily basis from lives that have been touched by this book worldwide, I am humbled, and I'm also so proud of what we created. And that was just by doing a little bit every single day. This is not something that was created over the course of 6 weeks. I saw, this kind of online gimmicky thing that said, publish your book in 30 days. And I just thought, well, what kind of garbage are they going to put out in 30 days? Because it's a lot of work, which requires a lot of time. And as you know, Jen, too, it's about my management of the process, because there were more than 50 people who touched this book, from proofreading to the page layout crew, to yourself and your team, to my team, to everybody else who was involved. It was a true collaborative team effort. Now, at the end of the day, the buck stopped with me. Final decisions had to be made by me. The management of the process ultimately rested in my lap. The timeline, all those things, I had a lot of folks helping me. But as the CEO of this project, I had to give it all that I had. And it really was just doing a little bit every single day.
So you're talking a lot about just the amount of hours, the legwork, the sleepless nights. I feel like during the process, and it's good to have a team and to have collaborators, because I know there were plenty of times where we were on the phone sharing screens at 11 o'clock at night. And that's just what happens when you do something of this magnitude. So I'm sure it could be a little bit scary for some people who are like, I want to write a book, but what James is saying to me right now is a little bit too much, a little bit scary. What's the one thing that you would tell one of your listeners right now, or the people watching? What's one thing you would tell them that might be able to get them to say, this is an idea, to taking that step forward of, I need to actually get my message out to the world? What's that one tip that you would share with them?
Well, the one tip is to just begin the process. You might not be able to see the entire staircase, but take the first step and realize that it's probably going to take about 5 times as much work, and it's going to cost about 5 times as much to actually make your book successful as you thought it would be. There is no quick process, and there's no cheap process in making this thing successful. But even though it can be daunting, take the first step. Open the Word document, create an outline, and just put your voice on the paper. One of the things that consumed quite a bit of my time is it took me a while to find my voice. And there were so many rewrites and so many edits because as a first-time author whose mission was to create a bestseller, I wanted to make sure that I got my voice right. Now, at times, my editor and I would have a little bit of back and forth with regard to how something should sound, or does this sound like James Nowlin? It had to sound like me. I've got tremendous respect for James Baldwin, the late great James Baldwin. And I found at times that I was actually trying to channel his voice when I was early on in the writing process. That turned out to be an utter failure. I think that if I could go back and go through the writing process again, I would tell people, no matter what you've been told in high school or college or in your classes in college or whatever, as an adult writing a nonfiction work, you need to take some type of tutorial or creative writing class that helps you to find your voice. Mm-hmm. And the sooner you find your voice, every piece of writing that you do after that is going to be the outcome of your voice. But it does take time because there are millions of words in the English language. The order in which you put those words is your voice. And it takes time to master that. Now that I have found my voice, Jen, I find that I'm writing things a lot quicker and a lot more easily. I am sending out things and getting articles published and getting blogs online a lot more quickly because I'm authentic to James and I'm not searching. I know who I am, and that started with taking the first step.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in terms of just finding your voice straight out of the gate. Because I think that, especially for books like yours and authors like yourself, where it's a nonfiction work, there's self-help component to it, there's a memoir component to it, and at the end of the day, you're trying to help people. So what people are going to best connect with are the things that make you you, the things that make you quirky, or the ways in which the expressions that you use. So really going all in and just being your authentic self, it couldn't be any more valuable, especially when it comes to writing books, which then translates into speaking topics. So when you're out there giving a keynote in relation to the topic of your book, people are going to know what they're expecting right out of the gate. They're like, that's James, that's his voice.
You're exactly right about that.
Yeah, so talk to me for a minute. I'm trying to multitask and see if people have comments. I'm also noticing that we have a red banner across the bottom that says about to start in a few minutes, stand by, even though we've been live for a few minutes. So I don't know if that could be a deterrent to people or not. But
I am going to see if I can correct that now.
Yeah. This is my first go at being on a Be Live, so I'm just going to throw that out there. So don't shoot the newbie.
Yes, I'm trying to change that, and it is not allowing me to change it right now, which is a little bit frustrating.
It's all good.
But I think I got it to go away. How about that?
We'll take whatever we can get at this point. Oh yeah, it definitely, okay, so it disappeared. All right, good. All right, so we're getting there. All right, it's gone. Good. All right, so people know that we're live. Oh, look. Okay, we have a comment. Okay.
We've got a comment. It's from Cleotis Alexander. He's actually somebody who I went to high school with, and we grew up in the same area in Lynchburg, Virginia. So he says, I've been wanting to write a book about business, and I got started as helping others get started. So where should I start? I caught the show late, so have you been live for a while now? So the answer, Cleotis, is that we've been live for about 10 minutes or so now. But we just talked about how to get started. And really, it's to take the first step. And you might not be able to see the entire staircase, but go ahead and take the first step by opening the Word document, creating an outline for yourself of something that you think is, your manifesto, whatever you want to put on paper. Because there are going to be so many permutations of that actual work that if you don't take that first step or you fill your mind with self-doubt, this is a process where people really, really get stuck. There is not a cocktail party or a reception or a meeting that I go to where I hear from people, I've been meaning to write my book, or, I've got a book in my mind, but I can't put it down on paper, or I've got a book, but, I keep going back and fixing it, or I can't get it to the publication stage. The main thing is to keep the momentum, keep moving forward. That momentum begins with taking the first step and not looking back. Putting yourself and your stuff out there with your name on it for the world to see is daunting. Also, being an author teaches you how bad of a writer you really are. I mean, I know that there's fantastic writers out there. I got really high grades in writing and English literature and all that stuff, and creative writing and things in college and law school, and was always told about how good of a writer I am. But I had a PhD and other, really bright, accomplished people who are masters of the English language editing my book, working with me to make sure that not only did I capture my voice, but that every single detail of the book was truthful, it was well written, and was constructive. And it takes time. Sometimes you'll spend a week on a paragraph. Sometimes you'll be able to churn out an entire chapter in a week. But the main thing is take that first step. Keep the momentum moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that one of the things that a lot of people get hung up on is that they feel like they have to be a good writer in order to write a book. And I've worked with plenty of people who've been good writers like yourself, where you're a good writer, but it still takes that time to develop your voice and realize that writing an email and writing a paper in college and, all these different ways of writing are not the same as writing a book. However, the best investment any author can make is in hiring a good editor, because a good editor can take no matter what type of lesser than quality, if you will, and really make it shine and really bring it to life and really capture your voice, which is ultimately what we're striving for, is to capture your voice, because your voice is the one that's going to make an impact. We don't want my voice in your book. We want your voice in your book.
Yeah, it's so important to have that coalition around you of really, really smart people. And I've talked to a few people who have some regrets about books that they've actually gotten out there in the self-publication universe. One of the benefits of actually having a publisher is because you brought the rigor to the process to make sure that I had the right team around me, and that team included having the right editor. Hiring an editor is not cheap, but it's certainly better than saying, hey, I got my girlfriend or I got my boyfriend to read through the book and do a proofread or I got, my neighbor who's English teacher to do the editing for my book. You don't want that. You want people who can call you to the carpet, who can really push you in terms of finding the right clarity for your voice and the message for the book. And one of the greatest compliments that I get from people all the time is that, well, hey, James, this book is really good, but I find myself wanting to turn the page. It's all about creating such good literature that people just don't read the first chapter. They read every chapter of the book. And when they put it down at the end, they say, wow, I learned something and I was entertained. That is not easy to do. And you can write all day long, but your editors are going to help you get that to the next stage and beyond. Now, generally, you don't just have one editor. You'll have a developmental/structural editor, which is the person who works on the order, the voice, the organization, all that stuff in the book to really bring a cohesive book to fruition. And then there's the copy editor who's kind of cleaning up some language and working on voice and some other issues. And then you have a proofreader. So you have 3, 4, 5 people who are working on editing the book, and different stages of edits come along the way. So you start at the developmental stage and you work your way all the way down to the proofreading stage. And honestly, even the day before you publish your book, it's still being proofread. Because one thing that you don't want to do is have a comma in the wrong space, or have a period with 2 spaces instead of 1 space, or something that's going to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that made it past my publisher, that it's on the printing press right now, and we've got 10,000 copies of the book going out, and people are going to see that, and they're going to think that I'm stupid. So I literally poured over my book day in, day out. I slept with it under my pillow. I was reading it inside and out, all 16, 17 chapters of it to make sure that it was absolutely perfect. And I can tell you this, I get a lot of fan mail, but I have not gotten one fan to say, you know what, you've got a huge typo on this page. I can't believe that happened. Which is a great thing.
That is a very good thing. And when that does happen, or hopefully it never happens, I feel like it would be a strike to the heart, because we put so much time and effort into making sure that every last I was dotted and T was crossed. And, we're really granular right now in terms of talking about like the depths of the publishing process and becoming an author. I want to flip us to a happier note and ask you what your favorite part of the process was.
My favorite part of the process was just being so purposeful. I found that this was one of the happiest times of my life to have so much to balance at one time: my work responsibilities, my family responsibilities, my writing responsibilities. Now, on a daily basis, I don't typically get to go into a creative space with my day job, which is CEO of Selfdoubt Partners, a corporate consulting firm, consulting to corporations. I don't get to be creative. I found myself every single morning wanting to get into the library at my house to write, because I was having this creative outlet. Now that the book is published, I'm looking for new ways to be creative, and I kind of can't believe that I buried that creative space of my brain for so long, and that I was just releasing it with the write of the book, Jen. So now that I've written the book, I look forward to writing more. I look forward to doing more video work. I look forward to, I want to do some woodworking. I want to do some more creative things with my hands. I'm looking at, taking classes on how to be an artist. This has given me a lot of confidence, because a lot of the time in the corporate world, we tell ourselves, oh, I'm not creative. I can't do this. I can't do that. No, I am creative. And I came up with something really, really good with this book, and it gave me a lot of confidence. So I like that. The other part is truly finding my voice in literature. That means so much to me. Everything that I write going forward has James's voice and his stamp on it. And it made me a better writer, and it made me a stronger writer that is a lot more clear. And then finally, I'll say, it's not just the book and the fact that it's published, it's the person that I became in the process. I talked about some really painful stuff in my book, and the whole point of my book is to excavate that, to share it with the world, and to live a powerful, purposeful, authentic, truthful life to help empower others. This has been therapy on the highest note. I talked about having survived a childhood riddled in domestic violence and alcoholism. This has not just given me my literary voice, it's given me my spiritual, my psychological voice in ways that I was strong in the beginning and I'd accomplished a lot, but I feel so good about myself now that I don't have to bury that garbage and that mind trash that I had in there, where when you overcome something like child abuse, domestic violence, alcoholism, all that stuff, there are little voices in your mind that tell you you're not good enough, or you can't be this, you can't do that, or you need to hide a certain thing about yourself, or you damn well better keep this a secret about you and your family. Now that that's out there, I feel so relieved, and I feel so authentic and empowered that I know that this is only the beginning. These topics are things that I'm going to be talking about for the rest of my life, and I feel good about that. I don't feel good, I feel great about it.
Yeah, and so at what point did you have that aha moment where you realize that not only are you helping people by providing them with such tactical, tangible information to improve their lives, but when did you realize, like, hey, I also have an opportunity to build this as part of my platform to raise awareness for domestic violence issues, and then actually go one step further and say, I'm going to donate proceeds to these causes? Like, where in the process of all of this did you kind of have that moment where you're like, I need to do this?
So I consider it, kind of finding my swag with the book. Once we had gotten pretty far along in the process, and I think this was probably around January of this year, February of this year, you, my publisher, your team, some other people had started proofreading the book and providing me feedback. And they were like, holy shit, this is so well written and so powerful, I could not put it down. You have to press forward with your message. James, I'm giving you encouragement because this book, although your story might be different from mine, it has touched my life. So getting those nuggets of feedback from you guys that I was a good writer, that the message was powerful, that I was touching lives early on, and that my honesty and authenticity was appreciated, gave me what I needed to press forward and to go into greater detail and to not bury things and to just continue pushing forward with this whole thing. And it was hard because it put myself out there. It put myself out there and revealed myself in ways that had not been revealed before. But I feel so good that you guys shot me text messages of encouragement because, quite frankly, I was dealing with burnout at one point. I mean, I got to one point where I was like, I couldn't even get out of the bed in the morning, and I love to pop out of the bed at 5 o'clock, but the days were just so long and the work was so intense that I had to tell you and your team, guys, please continue to encourage me. And you kept reading, you kept digging into things, and other people kept reading and digging into things, and you were telling me, this is really awesome, and that felt good, and that gave me the power and the aha moments that I needed to keep pushing forward.
And where along the lines, or how did you calculate this? Because I feel like something a lot of people struggle with, especially when we're talking about writing a memoir, into some degree, writing self-help, writing about yourself. Like, there's that whole kind of piece of things. But where do you make I'm trying to figure out how to best describe this, the calculated risk, right? So there is an inherent risk by exposing your story and telling your story. And I know a lot of people who, whether they're talking about openly serving gay in the military, or whether they're talking about being the only minority in their particular workplace, whatever, wherever we're talking about this, you talk about really specific examples of kind of discrimination in the workplace, even within your book. And then you also bring up family. Like, there's a lot of things that you cover. How did you go through a process that helped you decide, is this worth including in the book? Or if it's not, how do I discern that I don't put it there? Because I think that there are people who are watching this or will watch the recording who could really benefit from that insight that you might have.
Yeah. So my editor and I, we kind of had a 3-prong test. Number 1, is it truthful? Number 2, is it constructive? Number 3, is it well written? That was my 3-prong test, and I kept things really, really simple because you can get all confused with, the self-doubt, the fear of, how is so-and-so going to take this when I say this about this, that, or the other? But quite frankly, for me, as a successful businessman and somebody who has had several disruptions in his life, I came out as an openly gay man, and I'm an openly gay businessman. I also am a black man who happens to be a millionaire. That does not happen by happenstance. It happens because people know you, like you, and trust you. Now, in order for you to come out with something that's as private as your sexual orientation and to navigate the spaces of the business world and other things, you've got to have a lot of confidence in yourself, and you've got to have a lot of self-love. So I've had the disruptions with that, And I've also had the experience of people, not wanting to be around me because, they are discriminating, or because they're bigots, or that's not part of, who they believe should be included at the table of equality. I've had it happen to me just as much as somebody who's gay as somebody who's black. Now, on top of that, I lost my life back on August 25th, 2012. I'm a living miracle. As outlined in the introduction of the book, there's statistically no reason why I should be here living, talking to you right now. However, I am. And having had disruptions like I've had in my life, there is no one person, there is no one thing, there is no one enemy that will silence or muzzle my voice. I am here on a mission, living a purposeful life. I am not afraid of anybody. My voice is powerful and it is perfect, and it will be shared to empower and to help other people. So I'm grateful for everything that I've gone through, Jen. Those things weren't happening to me, they were happening for me to make me stronger, better, wiser. And the book is the outcome of that. But another outcome of that is that it's brought me so much joy to just go through that entire process, to say, you know what, these decisions that I've made, they've been worth it.
Yeah, I feel like every decision, at least in this process, 100% worth it. And everything was so strategic and calculated in the best use of that word, in terms of what direction do we take and how do we make sure that at the end of the day, the reader is the one that we're caring the most about, and making sure that they're getting the best experience whatsoever. So I know that we have Cletus, who's asking, what prompted you to even write the book in the first place. So I'm curious what your answer is.
Yeah, so after my accident, I came back and I struggled with depression for 2 or 3 years, really trying to find what was my purpose for being here. Now, having been rescued from a lake in which my lungs were filled with lake water, which was bacteria-ridden, having lost some of my speaking capabilities, and having suffered so much in rebound in the hospital and at home, that gave me time to examine and to reflect upon my life. I'm so grateful for 82512 because it opened my eyes. And it really taught me, you know what, James, you're playing small. And quite frankly, before my accident, on a scale of 1 to 10, Jen, I was living probably a 5 to 8 on a happiness scale. After my accident, because I had achieved nirvana and I had transitioned to a different place, I found myself searching. And I didn't know what my purpose was. This book is my purpose. And a couple of years ago, I woke up and I realized, wow, look at this life you have lived. Look at these blessings that you have had. Look at these lives that you're touching when you go to a conference and you speak with people. Look at these clients who you're touching in a very positive way. Why are you playing small by not sharing that message with the world? Yeah. Now, once I eventually put down the antidepressants and the prescription drugs and all that stuff, the light started awakening in me. And this book was part of that light, sharing the message, prosperity, power, purposefulness, how to make happiness a daily discipline with the world. And this is just everything that I was meant to do in life. And no matter how much I work on this book, and no matter how much I share the message, it's not work for me anymore, because I know that I'm helping other people. So I knew that when I found my purpose after those 3 years of hell, dealing with why in the hell am I here on earth? Wish I could be in heaven right now. Got to experience nirvana. This sucks. Depression, antidepressants, all that stuff. I found myself. And I found my purpose. And I'm delivering on that purpose.
Absolutely. One of the things that I find most admirable about your style and your work ethic is that you are constantly going. You are 10 steps ahead of everybody. People are trailing behind. You're kind of like, come on, like you can do it. So not only are you in that role of leading, but you're also cheerleading many of the times too. And one of the things that I think you do so well is self-care. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because I know that you certainly, it's weaved in throughout the entire book, but for somebody who's embarking on, I'm really inspired by James. I'm really inspired by his story. I want to tell my story. What's the flip side of that stress and anxiety and sleepless nights? What's the self-care component to making, evening out your stress levels a bit?
Yeah. So the first thing you've got to do is take care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So a lot of people get it twisted. We've got people with families and people with careers. They give so much to their children. They try to give so much to their marriage. They try to give so much to their careers. And they find themselves stagnating or plateauing at a certain level because they're not taking care of themselves. Now, for me, Jen, number one is doing the same thing every single day. It's not about what you do from time to time. It's what you do consistently. It's not the fact that you can go run 10 miles once a week. It's how much are you working out and breaking a sweat every day or every other day? What are you doing consistently? So for me, I've got consistent rituals in my life, habits, practices, and procedures that I put into play in order to stay in that mindset and in that physical mind, body, spirit space of well-being, so that I know that I can deliver to the world. Now, the reason why my productivity is so high is because on a daily basis, you can find me waking up at the same time. You can find me doing my ritual when I wake up in the morning to make my bed and to say thank you, thank you, thank you to the universe. I sing it out loud, and that opens up the universe's channels of gratitude and opportunity for me because I'm communicating with this powerful, powerful force out there and starting my morning with gratitude. I'm also doing the same thing with different teas that I drink and, doing little things like staying away from alcohol, limiting carbs, limiting sugar, and making sure that I get my at least 20 minutes of exercise and sweat in every single day. Now, all that being said, none of this stuff is too complicated, but it might seem a little bit daunting to have such a regimented lifestyle, which is what I go into greater detail in the book. But the benefit of that is that it creates something awesome over time. I don't get, stuck dealing with having a hangover, once or twice a week or having to go out with friends or whatever because I'm focused. When you get into that flow, when you get into that spirit of giving so much to the universe and the universe gives you energy in return, you try not to deviate from that which is working for you. Now, what works for me might not work for anybody else, but what I will say is you will only be as good as what you do consistently. Your workout might be in the gym lifting heavy weights. You might be a runner. You might be a swimmer. You might be a triathlete. You might be a combination of many, many different things. But you've got to take care of the physical body first with the right exercise and the right food and the right regimens, including getting 8 hours of sleep every single night in order for the spiritual well-being to take effect and for the mental well-being to take effect. When one of those things gets off or something gets, thrown for a loop, it is so hard to refine that balance in your life, and it might take months to get it back. And so that's why I stay stuck in the same rituals, whether I'm in California or Hawaii or Australia or the United Kingdom. I'm doing the same thing every single day, and it works. It works. It works. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel.
So what would you tell someone, because I feel like you are such a successful businessman, as it's very clearly outlined in your book, and for everything that I know about you, you're just a wealth of knowledge. And I have seen you personally lifting weights in the middle of a call. So I know that that's how you roll. I guarantee there's probably a dumbbell somewhere on your desk or within arm's reach right now. That's exactly how you roll. So for somebody who's thinking I don't have time, because we know that that's always someone's always going to have that excuse of I don't have time. If you can find the time, I feel like anybody can. So if you were to give somebody maybe one or two tips of what they can do right now, once we're off Facebook Live, which will be in 12 minutes, shut it down and go do X, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, so you don't have to start by, running 10 miles a day or being in perfect athletic shape. Start by doing one push-up. Set a calendar reminder every single day that when you wake up in the morning, you're going to have your iPhone ding you to say, do that one push-up. It starts with that self-discipline. You don't have to be able to do 50 push-ups, but what you have to do is to get into a consistency routine. And once you do that one push-up one day, the following day you might want to try to do 2. And then the following day after that, you might want to try to do 3. Or you might have the reward centers in your brain tell you, James, this is really awesome. A person out there, it's really awesome that you're actually doing that one push-up every single day. And that's going to give you more confidence. That's going to give you more confidence to stick with the same routine. And yeah, I do lift weights during calls. I do all these things to reduce the stress levels in my life and to increase the amount of endorphins flowing through my body because I've got to be on for such extended amounts of time. On a typical day, I can do anywhere between 2 and 5 interviews globally with different podcasts, different radio shows, different whomever talking about the book and all these other things. And I've also got to lead conference calls and change gears in my mind with regard to what I'm talking about. Not just talking about the book. I'm talking about my firm, Excel Global Partners. I'm working on a management issue with my team. All those things. But the main thing is to just start with small pieces. You don't have to start big. And that's where, people start things and think, oh, this is really hard. They start this new diet. They change their entire routines. Everything that I've done has been a gradual shift to build up to this. This is not an overnight success story. It's a 20-year overnight success story. I've been putting these habits into place over time. And quite frankly, with talking to you right now, if I didn't have to have this microphone up to my face and I were on a typical conference call, I'd be doing some bicep curls right now just to keep my blood flowing through my body. Because when that happens, my brain is also being nourished and it's getting more oxygen because more blood is flowing. So it's about keeping moving, but first you've got to start small in order to do big.
I like that. I like that a lot. I want to switch gears in a minute, but I do have one follow-up question based on what you were just saying. For people who, because I imagine that your audience are likely people who maybe they have a day job and maybe they've read your book and they're inspired to do something more. So what is that more for them? One of the things that you do really well is shift. So you're focused over here, like we're doing this, this for me, this isn't work. This is fun. I love doing stuff like this. I love talking. I love brainstorming and have conversations. But then the second this hangs up, it's like I have to divert my attention to putting out a client fire, or I have to rally my team to get everyone on the same page for this call that we're going to have in a minute. How do you personally make that shift? Because it does take from different parts of the brain to be able to successfully make that shift without shortchanging any one constituent that you're kind of working with. So what's your kind of key here?
So I've got a little trick that I want to share with people. In order to make a mental shift, a lot of the time you have to take a physical shift. So for example, you and I are sitting here in an interview right now. I'm at my desk in my library. And if I have a conference call in 10 minutes, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I might walk around for a few minutes. I'll do some breathing exercises. I might do some push-ups. But in order to mentally clear my mind, in order to move to the next conversation, I've got to do the work physically in order to make that happen. Because if I don't do that, Jen, I'll bring this conversation to my next conversation. I'll think, well, we should have covered this, we should have covered that, or I should have answered that question a little bit better, or I forgot to tell the people about X, Y, or Z. But when you physically activate your body, there's a mental change that takes place, and that means walking out of the room that you're in, getting some fresh air, walking outside of your office building, walking outside of your house, just doing a 2 to 3 minute lap, doing whatever you need to do to mentally shift from one task to the next, because it can be quite painstaking when you've got to change gears 500 different times during the day. My little secret is to do something physically different.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's such a good tactical kind of tip for people. I want to spend the last 8 minutes or so that we have talking and talk about the future. So you launched your book on April 25th, which will be a day that will always be commemorated because you were Purpose Driven Publishing's first author.
Yeah.
And which is so exciting. The Purposeful Millionaire, like what could be a better connection in terms of, our maiden voyage, which I keep saying clichely, if that's even a word. What I want to ask you about though is like the book is just the beginning. Like the book is really the vehicle. It's the messenger. It's the tool in which you are broadcasting your much larger conversation and message to the universe. So what are you planning on doing next? What have you been doing since it launched to now, which has been a good 2 months time already, or 3 months? What does that look like, and what's next?
So I believe that our impact is only measured by how many lives we touch quantitatively and qualitatively. So for me, I was getting a lot of feedback and positive kudos from people who I was working directly with in my firm. But how many lives can you touch if you don't write a book? How many lives can you touch if you don't get on stage? How many lives can you touch if you don't do a Facebook Live interview like this, which might be shared with perhaps thousands of people eventually? My main thing is to take this message of prosperity, wealth creation, happiness, purposefulness, all this into the universe, and to do it in a way so that I'm public speaking more. My goal is to be giving 2 to 4 paid keynote speeches on a monthly basis to get the message out there to the universe about what this stuff is all about, what the 52 rules are all about. That's a mission that I'm on right now. And my goal is to touch lives. Now, if we go back a couple of months to April 25th, I was in an interview and somebody asked me, where do you want to be a year from today? My goal 1 year from today is to touch 1 million lives. Now, looking at all the interviews that I've had out there so far, we're well above the 200,000 mark in terms of viewership of those different meetings, those different speeches, of those different interviews that I've had broadcast worldwide. So we're well on our way. This book will touch the lives of 1 million people, and certainly in different ways over the course of the next year. Some people might have a profound impact. Other people might take 1 or 2 little nuggets from the book and start applying those things to their lives. But if I did not use the book, and if I did not take the risk of putting my name and my words and my authorship out there, then I wouldn't be touching those lives at all. So we impact people in small ways. We also impact them in large ways. But the main thing is to just get out there and to share your voice with the world. Now, it might just be somebody saying, I'm going to volunteer a couple of hours a week in my community center because I'm respected at work, but I know that I can help these children. I can help these women or these men who are survivors of domestic violence. The main thing is to start, get out there, do it consistently, and to share your voice, your power, your love, and your joy with the universe. And what you'll get in return is a lot of energy and positive, good feelings about yourself from the people who you're helping. So when I serve, it's not selfless. I get a lot back in return. I get my joy in return from this.
So what is the best feedback? Hang on. Are you getting feedback? Speaking of feedback?
No, I'm not getting any feedback from you. Are you getting it from me?
It's echoing on my end, but who knows? As long as it's not affecting our audience. What I want to ask you is, what's the to date, and there's going to be plenty more like it, but what's the best thing that you've heard in response to your book? What's that one life that just kind of resonates and stands out for you, knowing that you made an impact on their life?
Ooh, if I could just sit here and read some of the fan mail to you right now, somebody telling me, you gave me the strength to leave my husband. It was either he was going to kill me or, I stayed with him. You really opened my eyes to the real situation. Thank you for writing your book. The other is, a letter that I received, and they said, I didn't think that there was anybody out there who was like me. But in you, I see myself in everything that I can be. So I get such encouraging, powerful letters from people where I say, you know what? I don't have any regrets because I feel like I'm doing the work to save lives. I'm putting my vulnerability out there. I am not a perfect person. I'm a work in progress. I've overcome some significant hurdles, and I'm sharing the keys, the tools, the toolbox, the tool chest with people that I've used in my life in order to create a life of success because I don't want it to be as hard for them. But I am so humbled by the letters that people send me. It's just such a rewarding feeling, Jen, where I know that I made the right choice by writing the book in my full authenticity. Now, people ask me, what's the next book that you're going to write? The honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know. That has to come to me from a spiritual level. When I was writing this book, I might have put the words on the page, but the message was guided and delivered by God. I truly believe that. When I was writing, and when I was working on this thing, and even when I was working on you, I felt a divine spirit working through me that was incredible. It was incredible. So this work is not just my masterpiece. It is me feeling that I am doing God's work and God's purpose for me. It's not my book. It's his book. But I'm going to do the work to spread the message as much as I can.
I love all of that. And I would say for anyone watching now live or on the replay, if you can, and this is something that I teach the authors that I work with, if you can just envision what your answer to that last question was. So for you, like just you hearing from somebody, you gave someone the courage to leave their husband, going into that, it's not like we were saying like, hey, this is a goal that we have or an objective that we're trying to meet as a result of publishing this book, but that is a hell of a benefit to come from that. That's one life that makes all of the time and in the investment worthwhile. So for someone who's listening to this and they're considering like, I want to do this, but I don't know where to start. Like all of the mindset issues and the other things that might surface, put all of that aside and just think for a minute of what that email might be or what that letter might be that truly and utterly saves someone's life as a result of you telling your story, because that's the way to kind of reframe the whole conversation.
Yeah. And Jen, I'll say, when you do this, your why should make you cry. If your why doesn't make you cry, don't do it. If you're writing the book to make money or to become popular or famous or whatever, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's way too much work for that. Now, I was successful before I wrote the book. I didn't need the money. I didn't need the attention. I already got a lot of attention. Where God takes this thing, I don't know, but I want this book to be in as many hands as possible. I want this truthfulness, this vulnerability to be shared with as many people as possible who will receive some kind of positive impact from it worldwide. And I'm putting in the energy and putting in the work to it right now. But I would encourage everybody out there, if you're looking for something out of a book that doesn't bring tears to your eyes, find something else to do. Find something else to do, because this is not an easy journey. And there are other ways to gain fame and gain popularity than schlepping a book and going through 2 years of time away from family and pure vacations and 7 days a week and 11 p.m. phone calls and Zoom video meetings and all those kinds of things to coordinate what is, quite frankly, a million little pieces of trying to make a masterpiece work. Your why should make you cry. If you know of a why that makes you cry and you know that it's going to impact the lives of others, then write. Keep typing, or don't put your...
I could not. They may have found their way in through my channel, or I know Joanna shared this video on her page. How can people find you, find your information, get a copy of your book, all that stuff?
So the easiest way is to just go to www.jamesonamazon.com, and I will type that in right now. Just bear with me really quickly, guys. So go to jamesonamazon.com to pick up the book. Also, sign up for our Millionaire Monday emails. They are free. I'm going to keep you encouraged on your journey. Your journey might not be to become a millionaire one day, or multimillionaire, billionaire, what have you. Your journey might be to, save $100,000, or to be able to retire by the age of 65. Or your journey might be to have a better relationship with your spouse. All these things are purposeful journeys, where some of the tools that I put together in the toolkit of the Purposeful Millionaire can apply to your life. It's about putting the rituals into place so that you are a success story. Go to our website too, which is, I'll type this in. Sign up for the emails. Send me information about how the book is impacting your life. Talk to me about some of the rules that you put into place that have most impacted you. Send me success stories. All that stuff just makes me so happy to find out about it. But the main thing is to get started and keep moving. Don't make it too complicated. Don't make it too hard. Just keep moving, because the little voices in your head that say, I'm going to get to it this year, or, I've started writing and I've got to finish this, that, or the other. You'll look back on today, which is June 21st, 2017. And before you know it, it's going to be June 21st, 2027 or 2037. And you're going to think, my gosh, 10 or 20 years have gone by, and I've still been talking about this thing either in my mind or at cocktail parties. Just do it, guys.
Yeah, I love the comments that are coming in from this part of our conversation. We have Kimberly who said, what I like about you and what you represent is transparency, which, this is exactly what this conversation is about. And then our mutual friend, Kristen Hickey, is on the bus to her next meeting, and she's saying that she appreciates your vulnerability, which is such a gift, which I couldn't agree more. And that's really, it's bringing that vulnerability into your book and into your work, which translates into speaking and, how changing people's lives. And Cletus is asking, do you have any seminars planned for the future?
I've got a few coming up, and I'll in fact be on the East Coast giving a keynote in September, and I think I've got 2 or 3 keynotes on the East Coast, one in Virginia, one in Maryland, one in DC. So I'll touch base directly with Cleotis about that. But I plan on taking the month of August off, and that comes down to the self-care we talked about earlier. When you run at this pace, and you're traveling and you're on the go and you're giving speeches all the time, you can burn out. So for the first week of August, you and I are actually going to be in Las Vegas at the NGLCC conference, and we're going to have a wonderful party in my suite. And we're going to invite lots of people who can potentially hire us to give keynote speeches and that kind of thing. That's going to be a little bit of fun. But immediately after that, I'm going to go to Maui, and my partner and I, we're going to spend the rest of the month, quite frankly, the rest of the summer in Maui, just to make sure that we're spiritually taking care of ourselves and taking care of the relationship. Because all this kind of stuff can kind of suck you up. But one thing that I know is most important, Jen, is that it's not about the money, the houses, fame, cars, any of that stuff. I've got a champion in the person that I married. And very few people on this earth get to marry their soulmate. And I have married my soulmate. And in August, I'm going to be doing the work and the care and the self-care on myself. And I'm also going to be doing the work, care, and self-care on our relationship, because I'm so blessed in that regard. And I haven't lost perspective. We might look back a year from now or 10 years from now and say, well, James sold 20 million copies of this book, and he's booked year-round to give public speeches. However, one thing that I want to make sure is rock solid is that I've taken care of myself and that I've taken care of my relationship, because my partner has grown with me over the past 11 years, and there's a tremendous amount of value in that relationship. I'll close by saying this. There is no power in secrets. When you take secrets and you bury them in your soul, that creates a very dark, sad life. You end up spending more time trying to hide the secret or fighting the voices inside your head. For me, I'm not going to live with secrets or the frustration of knowing that I didn't bring my entire full authentic message to the world. So what Kristen shared with me about being authentic, that's so empowering to me. Because you meet so many folks and they're not authentic. I came back to give my truth to this world. I came back to dig out those secrets that I thought were so bad and to share with others so that they can say, James, in you, I see myself. I might be, they might be a woman, they might be older than me, they might be younger than me, but we're all in this journey together. And if we all act like our lives are perfect and we bury these secrets, which eat us alive, then when we're on our deathbeds, we realize that we did not live up to our fullest potential. When you unleash your secrets, when you talk about the pain and the suffering that you've gone through, you are helping to empower others, particularly when they can see you as a success story, somebody who didn't get stuck, but who came out on the other side A-okay. And that's what I'm doing, and that's my mission. And I plan on sharing more, Jen. I plan on sharing more.
Oh, I know.
Not been a perfect journey. There is more to be said, but what I do know is that this is my journey. This is my story, and it will be shared.
I have nothing to say that tops any of that, other than this has been an incredible, incredible interview. And I'm so happy that we had a chance to kind of reconnect and do it live for everyone to kind of witness our conversation. So I encourage you and all of the people who follow you to just keep telling your story, being authentic, being vulnerable. That's really what makes the world go round. So thank you.
So free when you're authentic and you're true. You share your story. It's a gift that you give to the world, but it's also a gift that you give to yourself. I am unleashed. I'm unencumbered. I don't have any monkeys on my back, and I treat people right. And I know the universe is going to continue to expand and bless me. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, because it's all about living right, doing the self-mastery, the work on yourself to make sure that you stay in that place of living right. And that's what the book is all about, Jen. And I thank you for being my publisher and for being such a wonderful friend, business partner, colleague, confidant throughout the process. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You are very welcome. I would not have had a better experience with anyone else in terms of just the missions of our organizations aligning in your work, and it's been an incredible experience. So I hope this is the first conversation with your people, with us together, of many to come.
Many to come. Thank you, my friend.
You are very welcome.
Take care.